Hi, Cleric again, talking about the tank meta. Now, I mentioned in my previous video that I was going to address this, and my plan is to keep this pretty short and sweet. A lot of discussion after the PvP showcase, a lot of showing of tanks and their effectiveness in both the 3v3 and also the 1v1. Kind of want to address a couple things that maybe people aren't necessarily aware of or paying attention to, and I feel like there's some things that need kind of clarified as far as how that event worked and what happened. So first and foremost, we were limited to parts that only existed up until the boss of chapter 2. Anything that existed beyond that, we weren't allowed to use. There's a lot of that that effectively limited us to roughly only about 20% of the parts that are available in the game in general. And a lot of those parts are parts that, in all honesty, would have been pretty beneficial to Oro on his side and the lightweight reverse joints in general. A lot of the parts you get early on in the game are very advantageous for the tanks because the tank's leg type, with the ability to basically fire cannons without having to go into a firing stance, was a pretty big deal, and able to do that on the fly. And you were lacking a lot of what we would say is the generators or the high energy capacity things that would allow the reverse joints or the lightweights to keep their distance properly or move in and out. So I think there's a lot of rush to judgment as far as people complaining about tanks being too good. Now, don't get me wrong, tanks are pretty good, I think, in 6 in general. In fact, this might be the best they've looked in a while, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. People kind of hate on tanks in general because it's not some super fast thing that goes flying around the screen everywhere, because that's the real peak performance looks like. But in all reality, there's a variety of leg types in the game for a reason. That's kind of just how it should be. There should be a variety of leg types, so please don't diminish the options because people like tank legs. I mean, you saw Cowboy's whole thing, tank go boom, right? It was fun. Like, it's genuinely fun. And so with the options and weapons and parts available, the parts that were available at what we could use anyways really led itself to a more heavy playstyle. Number 2, we were limited on the maps that we could use. We only could use about 5 maps that were approved. And all those maps, aside from the city snowscape map, are pretty open in general, and even a lot of parts of that cityscape map are pretty open. The other maps, which there's a whole lot more maps in PvP than those ones that we showed during the showcase, a lot of them have a lot more cover and have a lot more tactical positioning in them that you can use to your advantage, especially if you're faster and lighter. So the open airspace also lent itself very well to the tank and big gun setup that you would have seen. So I don't think there's a lot of merit to saying like, oh, this is so easy. Well, of course, you're in a big tank with big guns in a small open map against a lightweight that's being hampered by the fact that they can't use all the items that makes it more effective. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that tanks would have been good. I'm not surprised whatsoever. So number 3, Oro himself admits his mistakes. So if you actually, a couple nights ago, Oro actually mentioned, he actually broke down his own gameplay and he explained some of the mistakes he made, some of the jitters he had because he was in the middle of the moment and actually switched weapons too many times, which is why he couldn't, optimize his use of his blade when Cowboy's tank was staggered. So because of that, he breaks down all the things he did and things he did wrong, things he wish he did better. And so he makes no qualms about the fact that he should have done better and he could have done better. He just made some mistakes. And sometimes in PvP, that is just what happens. And he willingly admitted those mistakes. And I think people are being a little too harsh, I think, as far as his gameplay goes. Because when we were doing the warm-up sessions, there was plenty of times where he was showing he was pretty good at the game. Number 4. So with the tank meta, you notice the very last game of the showcase, they were running the 3 tank thing again. And so me and Cowboy both ran tanks also. It's kind of an answer, but our tanks were different. They were kind of showing off the dual chain gun setup, whereas I went full laser. I had dual laser rifles and dual laser cannons in the back, and Cowboy went double bazooka, double grenade to kind of show, the differences between the tank setups. And that's, I think, part of the reason why it was a narrow win at the end there, but the lasers just kind of ate the other tanks alive. So yeah, damage typing does matter. And that's part of the reason I busted that out, because I wanted to see how effective it would be, and it worked out pretty good on that last match. And so it does matter what weapons you pick against what type of enemies, and just like the classic From Software titles where the heavier machines tend to be less energy defensive, it appears to hold pretty true even now. And honestly, the speed and damage that lasers just kind of do in general is pretty noticeable, especially against slower targets. And then there's the last thing. So I'm going to show a clip here. This clip was shared by a bunch of other people. They sent it to me. I appreciated the vote of confidence here on this one, Oro. So this was one of the matches where they were running the all tank setup. I think it's the first time they ran it. And I'm actually running a heavy biped with dual Gatling guns. Now, in the scene, you're going to see Oro using... Actually, no, let me just go to it here. You're going to see Oro is using hard lock. And as I said in another video, I did not use hard lock the whole time. I used purely soft lock and soft lock only. And what you're going to notice here is that even though we're engaging at roughly the same, we're obviously engaging each other at the same distance wise. And he even makes a mention how I should have been dead and somehow I'm surviving. And on my heavy biped, not a midweight, not a reverse joint, not a lightweight, on my heavy biped, I was managing to kite and kind of keep my distance. Now, granted, I realized Oro didn't kind of press his advantage and try to assault boost it and get closer. But in all reality, if he would have done that, I also would have had options to get away from him if I wanted to. So through just kind of the classic AC movement of bunny hopping and just varying your movements and directions to keep the shots off of you, you're going to see something other than a bazooka or other than a grenade launcher like I showed in my previous video, where even the chain gun was spraying around and having quite a few misses on a target with the hard lock on. So let's just watch it once real quick here.
Really disorganized. I don't know why they keep on doing that. Like we're just easy. Look at this, dude. We're just like vultures. That's disgusting. He's surviving, dude. Sort of gamer. Like 3 tanks, like circling in on him. This is Cleric. Yeah, he's good. Damn, I'm gonna switch targets. I'm gonna actually try to go for someone weaker.
I'm gonna go after someone who's easier to kill. Like I said, I appreciated the vote of confidence. It was funny, and I like how the classic, what I'm gonna call straight up muscle memory that I have of bunny hopping in Armored Core was even effective in this game. And you notice, if you look at what his AP starts at when we engage, let me go a little bit ahead here. So when we start engaging each other, he is at 15,946. And you can kind of see on the part of the screen here, where you can kind of see what my health is currently at. And let's go a little bit here. I'll mute it out so you can kind of, I can explain it. All right, so right about here. So that's the proper amount. So he's at 15,567, and you can see here what my health is currently sitting at. So right before he turns around and he shows his back to me, I did get him down to 2,000 AP. If you look at my AP though, when he left and stopped trying to target me, you see my AP's barely moved. So in the process of me doing 2,000 damage to him with the exact same dual Gatling guns that he is using, and me using soft lock versus his hard lock, engaging at the same distance, I only lost about maybe around 300 to 400 AP, and he lost 2,000. So there is definitely a definitive, shall we say, effectiveness range and the limitations of hard lock versus soft lock, and the movement style I was introducing with bunny hopping on the heavy biped that severely reduced his ability on the tank with dual Gatling guns you kept seeing, that really diminished its ability to do some damage. So really that's it. I said short, sweet, not overcomplicated, nothing too big deal. Just kind of showing a little bit of what it looks like. And I think people need to, as I mentioned in the hard lock, soft lock thing, you got to give this game a little bit of time to cook and kind of figure out how it's going to really end out in the end as far as all the parts feel. Imagine with 80% more parts and a variety of different options and a variety of different legs and a variety of different generators and FCSs and all the different things you can affect your gameplay, how different that really is going to look and feel by comparison. And I think you will see that people who just straight up run tanks and dual Gatling guns, not that they're going to be completely ineffective, but they're not going to be nearly as dominant as they appear to be in a game with limited map choices that were almost completely open, with limited options for the lightweights to have a proper response. So I think you just kind of need to put, oh, I did it again, hit the microphone again. Back it up just a little bit as far as taking it easy on being the concerns that tanks are too strong. I think when it all gets ones out in the end and everything happens, I really do think it's not going to be that bad. So I want to finish this out into this to now. I keep forgetting to do this, and I feel bad I keep forgetting this. Cassis, I want to say a huge thank you to you. For those who are not aware, I made partner a couple weeks ago, and Cassis became my first member, and he actually joined at the highest amount, which I was flabbergasted when that happened. So Cassis, I don't want to say personally to thank you. I appreciate the support. It's huge. I hope I make it worth it to you. I'm generally trying to get as much done here as I can in between, the wife, kids, and a couple jobs, but I will see if I can make it worth your while. So if you want to join the membership, the information is down in the description. There's a Discord we have going now. I really got to work on that Discord. It is so bare bones. I feel horrible. And of course, comment, see what you think, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.